When I lost my job full time, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And he just said, I can tell that you're playing it safe. Stop. Design. It's more than sales. It's more than who we're working with in major retailers. Like that to me is important. If a woman can walk into my business and work for me and know who she is, and if everything else can fall apart, but this is consistency for her, that's huge.
The Leave Your Legacy Show is brought to you by Bravehearts TV. Bravehearts TV is dedicated to bringing stories of resilience, courage, and hope to their viewers. Their mission, to inspire, uplift, and empower their audience by highlighting real-life heroes and their journeys. In partnership with Bravehearts for Kids, you, the viewers, become catalysts for saving the lives of children facing pediatric cancer. You can start by simply downloading their network app on Roku or Amazon Fire TV. Please visit braveheartstv.org. Iowa Sports Supply. Iowa Sports Supply in Cedar Falls, Iowa has all of your school sporting goods and corporate business apparel needs. Anything from jerseys, sports equipment, to online fan apparel stores. Remember to check out their website at iowasports.com or give them a call at 319-268-0125 and ask for Alex. Elevate with Robin. Elevate with Robin is a full-service brand marketing agency that specializes in developing purpose-driven brand identities. Elevate with Robin has the right blend of strategic thinking, creative courage, and commitment to elevate your brand with every interaction. Their mission? To empower brands to rise above their competition by creating powerful brand identities that resonate with their target audience. Visit elevatewithrobin.com. Hello and welcome to the Leave Your Legacy Show. I'm your host, Kenyon Murray, and today we have a very special guest, Candice Luter. You talk about someone that's blowing up. She has designs that are being featured in Target. She's traveling all over the world, installing her designs, meeting with people, doing very personal pieces. And we'll talk to her a little bit later about how her business is growing and how it started from just a small little space in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So I'm excited to share this conversation with you guys. So we'd like to welcome Candice Luter to the show today. So excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're doing some great stuff. And so it's been really interesting for me just doing research. And I didn't know, even though I've known you for a long time, one, super creative, super ambitious. And so for our audience, just give our audience a little bit of background on you, your journey to where you are today.
Yeah, so I think to keep it short and simple, I usually tell people that I design furniture and home decor. And I would say, you know, being like a small batch manufacturer, I produce not only for my own brand and my own line, but then I also work for major retailers too. So, and it was a wild journey to get here. Let me tell you, I did not set out to do this. I did not set out to be a small business owner. But, you know, I feel like God always has a way of working things out. Yeah. And that's just kind of how I got here. So I say I'm 40 years old, just turned 40 in January. And I say that just to say, you know, entrepreneur really wasn't a word when I was younger. And so I kind of floundered around, like a lot of people I'm sure can relate to, you know, what do I want to be when I grow up, right? I still feel like that a little bit. But, you know, I was very creative as a child, but I didn't really have those outlets to really pursue, to figure out and navigate, you know, what it is that I'm good at, you know, what could I do with this? And so I went the corporate America route after college and really kind of just sat in my small cubicle thinking, is this all that there is? Right. And, you know, Pinterest was coming out. And so that really kind of sparked my creative energy. And so I was just like soaking everything up. And, you know, like many people at that time, I was going to Goodwill and getting stuff on the street corners and whatever, and trying to like upcycle it and rehab it up. And it really started to ignite something in me, especially as a single mom. Yeah. And I'm sure, you know, some of the people listening might find themselves in that category too. Like it's hard to be everything to everyone. At the end of the day, what do you have left for yourself? And so it really was that outlet for me when I came home at the end of my corporate America days to do something for myself. And so, you know, without making the story too long, you know, I said to one of my cubicle mates, I said, hey, there's this farmer's market thing. I think I should do this. And she's like, but you don't have a business. And I was like, I'll figure it out. Truly. And so I went downtown, I registered my business name, and I just started making anything and everything and just started showing at farmers markets. And that's kind of how I got started. And then obviously a lot of things transpired over time to then now making this a full-time business.
Well, that's wild. You know, you talk about creativity. I think sometimes like when you don't have people pushing you, like you said, you can bury it and then, but you're able to find it. So creativity wise, did you see yourself doing this as far as like growing a business? Because I mean, you've self-proclaimed like this is just a passion of yours and you love doing it. The business part is something else, but How has this really ignited you? I mean, it ignited your passion because people are using your stuff all over the world. So yeah. So, I mean, what truly like was the spark that said, okay, I'm doing this full bore and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. Well, truth be told, and I will still say, I have no business running a business. I'm just honest and raw, like, because I didn't set out to do this, right? No business background, nothing. I think for me, what really ignited me and my passion and realizing like there might be something to this is really when I was in my farmer's market booth, right? Okay. Just talking to people and connecting and hearing them say, oh, I love how you did this or that. And like you said, when you don't have that support, it's really hard to be your own cheerleader in life, you know, and working a full-time job and doing this on the side, it's like, how do I maintain and balance this? And I can easily get obsessed with things. And so for me, it was really just kind of upping the ante, you know, once I started putting myself out there and trying to find out who my customer was, which wasn't necessarily where I was from, putting myself on, you know, Etsy and, you know, putting myself out there, I was able to find who my customer was. And so it really just got my wheels turning. And it really wasn't until pandemic when I lost my full-time job. And I'd already been doing this on the side, which was already very successful in, you know, recruiting women to come, you know, work for me and trying to build this thing, right? Whatever this thing was. When I lost my job full time, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me because I never would have left the safety nest of having that regular income and, you know, insurance. And again, I was a single mom. And so I really needed that stability. And so I thought, okay, God, I'm just going to use the two hands that you gave me and I'm going to jump in with both feet. And we ended up tripling our sales that year. And it just provided a way for us to keep going. And so really, I think one of the most pivotal moments for me, especially in the beginning, was watching all the women in my studio, all different backgrounds, ages, you know, different, you know, just different demographics and coming together and learning from each other and collaborating. And I thought, this is what it's about really, because, you know, people can look at my social media and, oh, you're killing it. And you've worked with this person, that person, but like what really defines success? Yeah. And that's something that not only have I defined that for myself over time, which isn't sales, but also finding my own self-worth in that. Yeah. Because I think for a long time, I was looking for so many other people to validate who I was and that I was a designer because I didn't have a design background, that it really was a journey of me finding myself in so many different facets that's really kind of what kept me going.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said this. You know, you talk about putting yourself out there, and that's the one thing we try to talk about, you know, on the show is like the vulnerability. So you put yourself out there, and I mean, you expose all of you. Oh, was there any time that you were just like, you were like this close to quitting doing what you were doing to go back to that?
Oh,
safety
you mean
net?
Yesterday? That's the thing of an entrepreneur. Like it seems so glamorous, but every day I'm like, I love this, but I want to quit. This is great. This is so hard. And I don't shy away from talking about those realities because when you do, then it allows other people to be vulnerable and be like, well, I'm that way too. And that's how I feel. And I don't feel alone in that. It's a be careful what you wish for. Yeah. Because, you know, you want the sales, you want to sign with these people and, you know, you get all these contracts and do all these things. But every stage in a growing business or just a stage in life has its own complications, right? Like more money, more problems, right? More money, more problems, more people, more problems, you know? And so once you think you've got it figured out, you don't. And so there's constantly something for me to learn, to pivot, to gauge, to understand not only about myself, but what it means to be a leader and things like that. And so it's been challenging, especially, you know, when I've gone from working at corporate America to working to small, you know, mom and pop business to working for myself. It's its own different added pressure, especially when you're responsible for people and putting the food on the table for myself, you know, and expecting, you know, it's hard to plan. Like the economy is up and down and there's things that are inside your control and outside of your control. And so that's difficult sometimes when you're working for yourself to be able to navigate the day in and day out and to know, you know, what does the next 6 months look like? What does the next, you know, year look like? So when people are like, what's your 5-year plan? I'm like, let me get through today because I'm just trying to get to the end of the week every week. Right. So.
No, and you know, I think what you're saying is like you said, a lot of people feel that. And that's how we connect. We connect through like our similar experiences and things like that. But is there one thing that you can say like, I learned this about me through this process that maybe in the past you were even afraid to admit, and maybe it was a weakness that's become your strength? But is there like just that one thing that you're like, you know what, I didn't think I would do this, or I didn't think I had this in me, but I know I can do this now because I believe in this, or I like now I put power and momentum behind this thing that maybe used to be a weakness for you?
Yeah. I know a lot of people are talking about imposter syndrome, and it is such a real thing, right? It's a confidence, it's a value, it's in all those things on what you believe about yourself, which helps you price things, how you market, all of those things. And I think a pivotal moment for me when you talk about that, I had a wonderful opportunity to work with some directors at Target on a kid's furniture line. And I remember playing it safe in my mind, but I didn't think that translated to anyone else, right? Like I gave them what they want. Like I knew what was trending. I knew what would work for them. And I remember one meeting, the director stopping and saying, "Candice, I can tell that you're playing it safe." And I was thinking, what? No, me? Like, am I that obvious? You know, and he was reading between the lines and he just said, "I can tell that you're playing it safe. Stop. Design. Just design. Even if you don't think that we would ever manufacture it, just design." And it really kind of allowed me to be me because, you know, especially as a creative, and that vulnerability of putting yourself out there. No one wants to be rejected. No one wants to be told no, or that's too much, or you're this or you're that. And so it really was a moment where someone saw me and believed in what I was doing and gave me the freedom to just let loose. And so I felt from that moment on, you know, people used to say, "Well, what do you do?" And I say, "Well, I just dabble." You know, I never said like I was a designer because I didn't think I had earned that. And so from that moment on, I felt like I could say with confidence, I am a designer. I design. And it really helped me to framework what I do. And I think there's a time to be trendy, but there's a time to also be on trend. And so it really just gave me permission for me to just lead with my gut and roll with that. And you either take it or you leave it, right? And then that's okay. I'm not going to be for everyone, but it was that moment that I felt more qualified for myself, and people were accepting of that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's a great segue to what I wanted to ask you next about. So you talk about Target, and you've worked with other brands, and you do a lot of like personal pieces as well.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me about a moment when you're like, something that you designed that you had and you saw it and you were just like, oh my gosh, like I did that. Like, did you have this like just moment of awe where like, okay, like I did that?
Yes.
Yeah. And what was that? What was that?
The following year, Target had actually asked me to design a decor collection for Black History Month. And from what I understand, I think it was like the first decor collection that they had really put together for Black History Month. You know, after George Floyd, there was a big push, and, you know, to have the representation. And talk about pressure, right? I felt like I'm representing Black History Month for like everyone in so many different ways. And for me, it was arriving at Target, which, you know, I'm a Midwest girl. We love our Targets. Showing up with my daughter, because she's been with me since we were like working farmers markets when she was little. And let me tell you, like she was like doing the cash register, like helping me like nail in the tent pegs. And for us to go there together and to show her like, this is what you can do when you put your mind to it. And we never had those conversations, but I see the woman that she's turning into now. And I know that the lessons were learned and she grasped what she needed to grasp. But walking in there and seeing my designs, you know, being manufactured by Target and seeing out on the shelves, it was so surreal. Like I still don't even know that it's hit me. Because it really truly was an emotional journey for me, especially being, you know, biracial in the Midwest and navigating what it means to represent Black History Month, but to have my daughter there and to look at how far we come. I mean, look, even in college, I mean, I remember her sitting in the back seat and I couldn't even put $5 of gas in my car. And so when you've been there and you see that, you realize how far you've come, because when you're in those moments when you're really struggling and trying to be your own cheerleader and everything, you don't ever think that things are going to be any better than what they are.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it's hard to get out of that. And so years later, to be able to have that moment, to share that with her, to see what I've done on the shelves and people picking it up and they don't even know that you've designed it, you know, and they're putting it in your cart. You're like, wow, like this is incredible. Like I've come so far, and I haven't even taken the opportunity to pat myself on the back, because I'm always thinking, what can I do more? What could I have done differently? Okay, what's next? But that was just one of those moments. I just had to sit back and just try and soak it all in.
So you talk about pressure as a biracial woman, but
Mm-hmm.
so in this industry, there's probably not a lot of people that look like you. And so do you feel like you're carrying a flag, or you have to champion in this industry for more, or do you find yourself trying to connect more with other designers who are Black or minority?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a pressure on you, or do you feel like you have to do that and reach out and connect with those people?
I felt it more after George Floyd,
Mm-hmm.
just with the amount of companies, retailers were coming out of the woodwork. We'd love to sign with you. We'd represent you and things like that. And for the first time, I had to sort of face the color of my skin.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds weird, but growing up, I didn't feel like I was enough of this and enough of that. And then today it was like, oh no, you're this and we want to represent you. And so I did feel the pressure of, am I signing with the right people? Am I doing this for the right reasons? Are they doing it for the right reasons?
Yeah.
And they're looking for someone to champion and for them to, feel like they're doing something good. And so I really kind of just had to navigate that with my gut as I went along. And even if the presentation wasn't the best, I had to navigate, but are the intentions still good?
Right.
Right. And so I felt that pressure. That pressure has since fallen off. However, now I'm hearing from CEOs and other Black CEOs of major retailers that they're, looking for Black designers and they're having a hard time finding it. And I'm shocked because I'm thinking, I've connected with so many people on Instagram.
Right.
Like, I know where they're at. Like, let me find them for you. And I try to do my best, with the doors that have been open to me. Like, who else can I bring, right? Because when I go, like, we all go. Like, people that I know, if you're good, like, let's go together.
Yeah.
So I don't feel that pressure anymore so much as, being targeted as a Black business, right? Like, I want to be known as a women-owned business, and I also want to be known as a great artist. And so I don't want to just be defined by the color of my skin, but the things that I do with my hands and the way that I lead, my team and the culture and things like that. So I don't feel that so much anymore, but it is important to me, especially when I go to colleges and speak with the up and coming interior designers and things like that, that I have that representation. And I have had students come up to me and say, it's great to have someone that looks like me. And so you kind of forget a little bit of that.
Yeah.
When you're just in the day-to-day until someone stops and says, I have a biracial daughter and I can relate in that way. And can you talk with her? Or, a young student will ask, can I meet for coffee? And you just make time to do those things to pour into other people, because so many people have poured into me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm going to stay there for a little bit because I think one of the things that may benefit you and I is actually being from Iowa and having to really navigate the business world here.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of Black business owners.
Right.
And so, one of the things that I'm working with my niece and some other people down in the South, and it's like, it's almost like we might have an advantage when it comes to corporate America because we have been around, white CEOs and business leaders, and we've had to navigate that, where maybe in their communities they don't have that. Do you feel there's some truth to the fact that maybe there is an advantage because we're here? Maybe there's an advantage because you're biracial, that you're able to kind of navigate that a little bit more, and you have to really, when you talk about pulling people along, there's that part too that you have to work with them on and understand, like, this is how you move in this world.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think corporate America is its own animal, right? Bad, good, red tape, and different, all of those things. And so having gone through that and navigated, and now that we're having this conversation, I'm looking back and I don't think that I had, in our division of this major company that I worked for, I think I was the only Black individual that worked there.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I don't know that they even saw me as Black.
Right.
Just because there wasn't really a lot of us, right? And so to be able to navigate those things, it's very tricky, but like you said, sometimes those things that might seem not as advantageous or maybe like a disadvantage, really being able to utilize that to your advantage has been huge. Now, I will also say too that I think there not being many of us in the Midwest, if they're looking to diversify, I also think that also provides a lot more opportunity as well too. And so I struggle with that a little bit because I don't want to be hired just for that. I want to also be hired for my skill sets. But again, going back to those days, it's like if they're not going to sign me, they're gonna sign somebody else. And so you also like want to take advantage of those opportunities as well too. But I will agree with you. Like the Midwest, when people hear where I'm from when I go travel on the East Coast, or like, wait, you're from where?
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, Iowa, not Idaho. Thanks to Caitlin Clark for putting us on the map. Iowa, seriously. We know where we're from now. It can be a little bit tricky, but there are definitely some advantages to that too.
Yeah, I always get the thing like, there are Black people in Iowa.
Yeah, I know. I get that too. We are here.
Yeah, there's some of us here.
Yeah.
So let's go back. You talk about your team. And the women that you brought in with you. So what were some of the challenges of leadership in that, right? Because I love what you said about how you took that not sole responsibility, but it meant a lot to you to help women who were, trying to provide for their families as well. And in a side conversation, you said you didn't pay yourself for an entire year. And I think that's what people don't understand when it comes to, like, when you start a business, like they always say, pay yourself a little bit. Right.
Yeah.
Because if not, it becomes more of a burden. But how has that helped you grow as a woman, being a leader and starting your company, and you have all these women kind of following you and looking to you for guidance, right?
No pressure, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a couple of things. I think vulnerability is one of them, and then authenticity is another one. So, when you worked for the big and the small companies, I've tried to take the best of both, and also maybe what I didn't get as a leader, as being a woman, that I wanted to make sure that I created that culture. And so one of them has been the vulnerability of saying, I want you to show up as you are. And so I think just in any job, not only can you not show up as yourself, right? Keep your personal at home, keep your whatever. And I get it, right? To a certain degree. Yeah. I have a small enough company that I want you to show up as yourself. So the girls know, like, hey, if you're having a bad day, like, come on in. Like, I will cry with you. Like, we'll figure this out together. Yeah. Like be yourself, because you're spending time with us. You're, navigating everything in life that it means to be a woman and a mother and all of these things. And I want you to bring that with you, because that makes you a more well-rounded individual. And so I think creating that culture where women can be themselves, but also as a leader, I'm very transparent and I'm vulnerable back with them.
Right.
And in my authenticity, they've seen me fail. They've seen me succeed. I don't put up this facade, if the business isn't doing great, like we talk about that. And I say where that is. And so I think being that open and honest, which I've gotten pushback in the past from mentors, like, you shouldn't be that close with your employees and you shouldn't be this or that. And I've navigated that to a certain degree. I think the transparency and the vulnerability and the authenticity has helped them buy into the dream, because they feel like they're just as much a part of it as I am.
Yeah.
And most of them have been there since the beginning. And I think they respect that, and they feel respected, and they feel valued, and they value what they're getting as a leader, because I don't candy coat it for them. And so you can't do that everywhere, and you can't do that in every large business, but I have it's a blessing, and I'm very fortunate to be able to kind of create that culture with them. Yeah. And it has made us more efficient, to communicate better, and all of those things. And so they're really right in there with me. So again, it always comes from the top down, and they knew from the get-go. I mean, training day one, I straight up said, you guys, I do not know what the hell I'm doing, but we're going to figure this out together. And we do. When I create a design, I say, this is how I came to this conclusion. If you get there by a better way that works for you with the way that you think, that's awesome. As long as we end up at the same amount of materials, the same time, like, I'm cool. And so I'm not trying to pigeonhole anyone into any specific skill set or how you do things or whatever. And so it gives them that freedom and the flexibility to still be themselves.
Yeah. And as you were talking, I was thinking too, like, there has to be empowering for them to be able to come into a situation and know that, hey, like, she laid it all out on the table for us, and you're asking them to come with you. Do you think that the women that you work with, maybe they were looking for that kind of empowerment or freedom in their life, and not necessarily being pigeonholed in, say, another job where, at this company, there's more women in this position and not this position, but they might have been looking for something to, I wouldn't say validate them, but at least like you said, they're able to be themselves. They're able to talk to you. There's a direct line of communication. Do you feel like that was maybe a draw to not only coming to work for you, but staying there and helping you grow the business the way you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think like, don't buy into what you see on social media, right? When people look at my social media and then they meet me, they're like, oh, she's like down to earth.
Right.
Like she's chill. She like keeps it real. And so I think kind of bringing that down to like, this is what it is. And this is like how it is. I think they do get that connection and also see themselves in my own struggles that are maybe on like a bigger platform.
Right.
One thing that really hit me when you said that, it reminded me of something. I had a year-end review with an employee. It was actually just this last year. And I didn't realize how much the business was impacting her. Like you said, when they were kind of like looking for something in this. And she had said to me, you know, I want to, you know, thank you and appreciate you for sticking with me. I know I've had a really rough year. You know, she went through a really messy divorce and all these things that were personally affecting her, maybe, you know, showing up on time or being present and, you know, at moments and things like that. And she appreciated the grace and the freedom that she was afforded to be able to get through that. And she said there were many days that I didn't know what was going to happen or what was going on. Even some days she didn't even know how she was going to feed her kids. But she said, but I knew who I was when I walked in here. And I was like, oh, like I was like trying not to cry, you know, and I just thought, wow, like, again, it's more than sales. It's more than who we're working with in major retailers. Like that to me is important. If a woman can walk into my business and work for me and know who she is, and if everything else can fall apart, but this is consistency for her, that's huge. Like nothing else really matters. Like all this stuff is kind of, it's trivial in the grand scheme of things, right? Like anybody can design. And I'm not trying to like downplay what we do, but this is the bigger picture. This is the purpose, you know, and the passion that is in the business that people don't get to see.
Absolutely. So I know you said you're not a business person, but I'm still gonna ask this question because hopefully you've thought about it a little bit, but
maybe I'm too honest. Like, for the record, I have no business plan for anyone listening. Like, I'm just figuring it out as I go along.
No, that's good. And I think, you know, I think sometimes we just have to let go and surrender and just, you know, like you said, you know, wherever God leads you, you know, is gonna lead you and not give you more than you can handle at any given time. But what do you want? Like, what do you see this becoming? I don't need a 5-year plan. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? But what do you see? Like, is there a different impact you want to have? Do you see yourself pivoting and maybe doing some things in another venue? Do you think there's something that may be an offshoot of your design company that you may want to do in the years to come? But I just kind of want to see, like, what's your vision for what you're doing now and what you think it and you can become in the future? Yeah,
I love designing for the sake of designing. And so we had talked previously about, you know, there's going to come a time like we can't physically make everything, you know, nor should we. And so in my mind, I've kind of got an empire state of mind, even though sometimes I might be self-limiting. But, you know, I think of all these, you know, offshoots, like a rug line and a lighting line and a this line and a that line. And so, and I would love to see this continue to grow and expand in these offshoots of different divisions and different businesses. And so it's important to me, you know, especially in the Midwest too, I try to use small businesses for some of our subcomponents if I can, you know, just to be able to support those people and their families. And so it's like, how can we be better together? Because we're all great at something. There's all, you know, there's something for everybody. There's a piece of pie for everybody. You know, I think sometimes artists try to like hone and hold that very close to your chest, where I'm, you know, wanting to expose, you know, a great welder or this person or that person. Let's tell their stories. And like, it's more than just the product. Like, who are we impacting behind the scenes? And so I see that growing. I see the storytelling, you know, behind the scenes, because I truly think that people do want to connect. And so that's one thing that I think can differentiate our business. But then I also, within the last like 6 to 9 months, I've really kind of reframed a little bit of my thinking in terms of just making something just because it's pretty. And so art for me and being creative has also been like a good emotional and mental outlet for me, just with things that I've been going through it, you know, and I've gone through with my own life. And so I've been embarking on this series. Like, I'm still like working on it and figuring it out, but it's going to be called If These Walls Could Talk.
Gotcha.
And so I really want to address the things that we're not talking about with and tying it to artwork, right? With it, whether it's depression, anxiety, like, you know, going through a divorce, like all these different things, and how can we involve and invite the artwork that we put on the walls. And, you know, maybe it's a certain rug pattern that's named after something that, you know, we want to keep in the forefront of our minds as we're growing personally and professionally. And so I really want to kind of marry the two. Yeah. And so behind the scenes, I'm working on a lot of different patterns and different things like that to be able to tell that story in a way that people can really connect to. Yeah. And so again, I think it's the growing of the businesses and collaborating, you know, better together, but then it's also just maintaining that approachability and that vulnerability in the bigger picture of what we're doing. And so, you know, when I've put myself out there on social media, you probably wouldn't be surprised, but the amount of women and people who have reached out to tell me their own personal stories. Yeah. Like, I'll be behind the scenes, like crying over somebody's Instagram story, and I'm back there sending them like a video Instagram message back, because this isn't just, sorry, I'm busy. Somebody, a robot's responding, like, I am here and your story touched me and this is how I want to encourage you back. And I think those small connections is what we're lacking. Yeah. And I think is needed more and more. Like, we just become so more isolated and so much more introverted over time. And I feel like more so post-pandemic. Yeah. And so it's how do we connect with people again, and how do we get those raw, real conversations going again? Yeah, and we, you know, one of the things I would say at the end of the show, you know, let's keep connecting in a time where we're probably connected more than we ever have been. We can reach people across the globe in a matter of milliseconds. Yeah. But we're further apart. Yeah. You know, we're not doing the things that connect. And I think that's where we need to go. You know, there needs to be more vulnerability. And we joke about it. One of my Bible study groups, we talk about like how it's easier for women to just kind of get together and talk things out. Yeah. Men need it more than ever too. I mean, we need to have outlets. We need to be able to share things. And so when you talk about connecting, that's so true across the board. And I think we need more of it in this world today. So we did talk a little bit off camera too, like just some different projects, because I know you were in Massachusetts a few weeks ago. You got any cool destinations, projects coming up that you're going to be working on? Yeah, so actually, I know this is going to sound like, oh, my life. I have to go to Jamaica to do an install pretty soon. It's just wild to me. You know, my world never even thought about doing product design. So now that I'm in it, I'm still discovering and still in awe of the opportunities there are to be able to travel, to still see the world, which is very important to me. Like, I love Europe. I love, you know, big cities. I love the East Coast. To be able to still have those opportunities to go out there and do it while being creative is incredible. So, yeah, we've done some installations down south, and those would be like fiber rope installations and things like that. We just did one on the East Coast. I have to do one in Jamaica, and we're constantly getting requests. I just quoted one in California. So it's just, it's incredible to have those opportunities, and also to take my staff as well. Like, a couple of them went with me this last time. It was the first time they'd had an opportunity to go. And I think it provides a refreshed and a renewed sense of inspiration, seeing how they fit into the bigger picture of stuff, you know, because they're the ones that are there every single day, taking the orders and making them and shipping them. And so to have the opportunity for them to be able to travel as well too, I think is just, it's so cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, rapid fire questions is what I always like to end with my guests. So I've got a few for you here. We'll see what the answers look like. All right. So now going off of travel. Yep. In all your travels, what is your favorite country that you've traveled to, and why? I really enjoyed Germany. I do too. I've been there. Yeah. I love it. I haven't been to Berlin. I've heard people really like Berlin. I've been to Hamburg a couple times. Okay. I used to work in aviation, so one of my major customers was there. I just love walking around cities, looking at architecture. I love trying new foods, hearing new languages, trying to learn it while I'm there and speaking, and really just immersing myself. Yeah. And usually people are like, "Oh, you're American? Like, you don't act American." I'm like, "No, like, I don't want to come here and act American. I want to come here and be like you and embrace, what is special about you." So I do love that, and I also do love Tahoe. Okay. Yeah, if you've ever been, and I am not like a nature girl, but the older I get, I love the quiet. I love just the woods, the water, all of that stuff. But yeah, Europe's kind of my jam if I was going to pick anything. Okay, awesome. If you could compare yourself with any animal, what would it be and why? A cat, for sure. Like, they're kind of temperamental. I'm usually pretty even keeled, but cats are kind of like let me stand back.
Yeah.
Don't pet me unless I tell you to, and let me jump in when I want to. So I kind of am like that standoffish. Let me observe and see what's going on before I get involved.
Gotcha.
Probably a cat.
Okay. All
That's
right.
probably not good. But
No. I mean, that's the first time I've had cat as an answer, but I love the explanation. All right. So this is a good one. Okay. You can have dinner with 3 people living or who have passed on.
Okay.
Who would they be and why?
I would love to have dinner with Denzel Washington.
Okay.
I just love thanks to Instagram, just seeing all these little clips of just things that he says and just his mentality and his little speeches and things like that. I feel like in a lunch or a dinner with him, I feel like I could glean like a lot of wisdom from him.
Yeah.
So him for sure. Keanu Reeves. I know that like probably throws people a little bit,
Yeah.
but just he's that like silent giver. Like when you hear about the things that he does and even just a lot of life that he's experienced, which he's had a lot of like not great things happen to him. To still be able to give and just to walk among the people. He doesn't seem like he's not the guy that's out there like trying to get attention, right? So Keanu Reeves and the third one, I don't know. Actually, what is her name? Brown. She's on social media. She had a line with Target. Oh, what is her name? I
wouldn't know because I don't know the design stuff.
What is her name? No, I'm gonna lose it. Yeah, she's great if I could remember her name. But you know what? I probably let's make the third person like my grandmother.
Yeah.
She was very creative. She was an artist. I'd like to think that I get my talents from her. And I, was not in that space before she passed away for her to see like what I've done now. And I think she would have been very excited. I think she always looked at things from such a weird angle and perspective that I'm sure she could come up with some crazy stuff that I've never thought of. I think she would be very proud, with what I've done because she didn't have a lot to her name, but she always made something out of nothing.
Yeah,
and I think that's really like how I got started. So I think we would definitely connect more in that way.
Okay. All right. Lastly, I have a bonus question for you. All right.
I'm scared. Go ahead.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about your workout journey and which so I'm throwing this one at you. Pie, cake, or cookie, and what kind?
All of them. My problem is sugar.
Yeah.
Chocolate chip cookies, cake. I'm not a big frosting girl.
Yeah.
I do love ice cream cake.
Okay.
And then what was the other first one?
Pie. You had a pie.
French silk.
French silk. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll take that.
All the sugar,
I know.
the everything.
I shouldn't say that. Would you telling me about your workout journey? But
I know. I'm all like, I'm trying to be healthy and cut sugar out of my diet. And now I'm going to have to go get some cookies when I leave.
There you go. I know I brought it to the forefront. Well, Candice, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I think what you're doing is inspirational. I think from our standpoint to come for someone from Cedar Rapids, it's one of those things where like there's so many good people and so many talented people in a place that people don't know exist. First and foremost, you have definitely just skyrocketed, and I'm so excited to see what happens for you and your business moving forward in the future. But yes, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. This podcast is sponsored by Storyline Multimedia. Storyline is an Iowa City-based media company that specializes in creating high-quality video, photo, and audio production for local businesses. They also work with college athletes and connect local business with NIL opportunities. They also produce a number of hit podcasts, including this one. So if you're interested in sharing the story of your business with the world, contact them today by visiting StorylineMultimedia.com. And remember, your story matters.